Halloween
forever.
Howdy ho, Goulerinos. Welcome to the Halloween is Forever podcast. We're here for another Minisode. I'm Brian.
I'm Megan.
I'm Steve.
Hey, welcome. We are here once again. Trying out a lot of intros. What'd you guys think about that one? The channeling Ned Flanders? That was the last minute decision.
I'm here for it.
It would be more apropos when we do our favorite Treehouse of Horror episodes, but yeah.
I was going to do, initially my thought was I was going to do like a step right up, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages kind of thing. And I was like, nah, that's more of a carnival than an amusement park.
Yeah, maybe it should, for every subgenre, we'll just like come up with a new. Do something different. Yeah. I like it.
In any case, we are here. The deed is done. We are started off with our next weekly minisode for you. We have chosen to review and discuss an only slightly less depressing movie than we watched last week. And you know what? Meg didn't even pick this one. We all agreed to do this movie. This was not a movie that was inflicted upon us. This was a movie we had a consensus agreement that we were all going to discuss. But of course, it was a first-time watch. And we're going to talk about the recently released, once thought lost, George A. Romero feature, The Amusement Park from 1973. But before we get into that, I guess, first of all, I forgot last time to talk about what are we drinking this evening? Anybody got any beers in front of them?
I don't have a beer in front of me, but I do have a beer that I've been drinking. I picked up a 4-pack of the Necromancer Black IPA.
Oh,
the poker face.
I fuck with a black IPA.
Poker face.
I fuck with Lady. I fuck with Gaga, and I fuck with a black IPA. And I love. I've only had like one Necromancer beer, but they're obviously immediately attracted to their art on their labels and the names of their beers and stuff. So
spoopy.
Yeah, was it good?
Yeah.
It was pretty tasty, huh?
Yeah, it's pretty tasty. Interestingly, though, it's like a lot softer and lighter than a lot of other black IPAs that I've had, especially ones released with like in our market.
Yeah,
like the Grist House Hops of Darkness is probably my favorite of the recent ones that have come out.
Yeah,
because it's like really roasty and bold. This one's a lot like lighter and citrusy.
Interesting.
They even say on the label that they used a lot of midnight wheat in the recipe. So it seems like that just achieved the darkness without adding any roast or anything to it.
Yeah, that's what a lot of like the first gen ones were, because a lot of people used Carafa or dehusked black malt, and then midnight wheat, is just like, it's a Bariste proprietary product, but it's like 600 love or something. It's crazy, crazy dark. So a little bit goes a long way. And we're getting real inside baseball and brewer terms right off the bat, ladies and gentlemen. Talking about dehusked Carafa malt. You know how those horror nerds love their dehusked black malt. And talking love upon, ladies and gentlemen. I love me a black IPA. Meg, I know what you've been getting up to, and I want you to fess up to it on the podcast.
I am living lawless lately. I am drinking for effect, and I've been smashing these White Claw hard seltzer iced teas, and I am here for it.
We were talking before we started. You're just trying to get booze in your veins.
You know what? Yeah, the blood needs the booze, you know.
Listen, we've all been there.
They're married. I know what you were talking about, because I'm like, I was avoiding them because I like seltzers, you know, especially if I'm just like pounding them and I'm like, let's get fucked up tonight. But I was like, no, this is gonna be too sweet. I'm not gonna like it. I hate very sweet things, and hey, it's not actually too bad. You know,
nice.
Hey, if you're drinking for effect, drink the claws.
Did you get a variety pack of the iced teas,
Of course I did.
What is your favorite flavor you've keyed in on from the?
I'm sorry, that tickled me. I don't know why. I didn't mean to over deliver on that joke, but it was a good one.
Actually, I mean, I'm pretty basic, and I'm sipping on the peach right now, but I'm really down on the lemon. You know, pretty basic.
I feel like I can get with the seltzers as long as they're citrus or mango. I'll fucks with mango. Citrus ones I like. When you get into the berry ones, they start to get real medicinal and weird.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I haven't had too many. I was curious if, like, even if we're talking about seltzers for a second, if you've had any of the more like craft seltzers that are out now, because I mean, at my brewery that I work at, we've been trying them and we didn't add any like just actual fruit to them. We wanted to try to like make sure it came out clear, make sure we were just like getting the like aroma and a little bit of flavor character. But all I see are when craft brewers are doing it now, they're like, well, yeah, we're going to do a seltzer, but we're going to put a lot of fruit in it. And I'm like, oh, so it's just like a smoothie that's boozy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's some of them that are not only that, but they're like 350 calories a serving.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah,
Like
totally
that's an
negates
anti-seltzer.
it.
You're just
Totally.
drinking pure. You might as well just drink the antiseptic fruit puree at that point. Like,
Yeah.
but
Anywho.
anyway, I am drinking, as you might expect, a little lager. I'll splash a little bit more in there and I'll show you again. This is Notch Brewing Jednatka, which is a Czech amber lager, aka Polo Tomave, or half dark lager, a style that you never ever saw until like 2 years ago, and now brewers are starting to make them a little bit. Notch is one that has been making them for a while, but it's basically like the name, it just means 11, and I think it's for their 11th anniversary, and it's an 11-degree beer, 11-degree Plato beer.
I just love everything they put out. Like, I know you
so
and I
good.
talk. I assume you got another order from them.
Oh yeah.
Oh my gosh, I need to as well.
Yeah, I can't control myself. It's like I check probably once a week, twice a week, and just like check to see whenever they up, because usually like a Tuesday or something, they'll update their website. And as soon as I see some lager I've not had before, or even any with the Zwickel, anything, I just I can't help myself.
Yeah, I can't help but to highlight that brewery though too, because I feel like you're not only just like drinking these really cool like traditional styles, but like ones that you don't get to see that often. So I can't tote them enough to like, if you ever get a chance to try their beer, try their beer.
Yeah, it's just, I haven't had one that, not only have I not had one that wasn't good, I haven't had one that wasn't like really impressive.
I will purposefully save that Pitchland Pills bottle that I have for whenever we record in person.
Nay.
Then we can all talk about it together.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, Brian, you would say you're checking for checks when you're on their website?
You did it. You did it, you bastard. You're throwing out beer puns. We haven't even gotten into the movie.
Dad's here.
I like the festive environment. Steve, sniper in the weeds over there. All right, yeah. So let's jump into the flick a little bit here. So for I guess before we jump into it, we should call out the thing that really made us want to talk about this film and made me excited to watch it was a lot of promotion by Shudder, as this was a Shudder exclusive release, and the whole idea was this was like a lost work by George A. Romero. I know I'm a huge fan. I think if you live in Western Pennsylvania, Pittsburgh area, it's a prereq. I think the quickest way to get into a fist fight in a bar in Pittsburgh is to try to talk shit on George Romero or maybe Mario Lemieux or something like that. Yeah, I'm a big fan. What do you guys kind of experience? Let's do this. This might be fun. What was the first George Romero movie you saw, and what's your favorite George Romero movie? Not to put you on the spot, but
Yeah. So the first one either has to be the original Night of the Living Dead or Dawn of the Dead.
Yeah.
I can't remember which of the two I had seen, just because, both my parents were fans of both.
Mm-hmm.
So they had like some connections, like one of my mom's like third cousins or something was a zombie in Night. And of course, like they had all been to the Monroeville Mall through the 70s. So, I can't remember which one, but favorite, it still comes back to like Dawn or Day.
yeah.
Like they both, they both have their really great points. I think at this point I might be a bigger fan of Day.
Oh, I'm so excited to hear you say that, because I thought I was going to be ridiculed for saying the same thing.
No,
I
just think the effects have held up a little bit better.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. I agree.
I like the procedural nature of Dawn of the Dead. And I like the way the story's told, but it just visually, it's getting a little gimmicky in its age. Whereas Day is very, claustrophobic because it's all underground.
Yeah.
And the visuals, like when Rhodes gets torn in half.
Oh my God.
That still holds up as one of the best visual effects.
I'm getting literally. I'm not to be dramatic. I'm getting goosebumps just thinking about it when you say that. I love that scene. I love all. All three of the Dead, original 3 franchise. They all are just right up there for me. Meg, what are yours?
So, because I think I've exposed myself in saying, like, I got into horror movies a little bit later in my life. Like, I had first seen, like, the newer Crazies movie.
Yeah.
And so that was probably, like, one of my more early introductions to George A. Romero. I mean, I think I was aware of, like, Night of the Living Dead and all of that. But one of the first movies I watched was the Crazies. Because I loved the newer one. And then, like, I obviously had to see the OG. And I equally loved that one.
So that's the one with my husband Timothy Oliphant. Someday I will make him mine. I love me some Timothy Oliphant. Steve, we talked about that on your podcast, didn't we?
Yeah, I believe so.
That's such a weird
so.
Yeah. I have a long and storied one-sided relationship with Timothy Oliphant. Yeah, so I know the first one I saw was definitely Night of the Living Dead, and I remember when I saw it, like, it was one of those, like, pivotal moments for me in kind of my horror development. My what did we call it on the original? My origin story.
Yes, your origin.
I think we talked about that, spelled with a W. Origin was being after trick or treat on Halloween night. I was probably 8 or 9 years old. And we used to all go trick-or-treating, and then we'd all, me, my brother, my cousins, aunts and uncles, everybody would end up at my grandparents' house after trick-or-treat kind of hours were over. And they had Night of the Living Dead on. Their big old console TV. And I remember sitting there, like, lining up and counting all my Almond Joys and getting ready to trade them away and inventorying all of my treats. And the scene with the girl in the basement, they discover her eating her mother in the basement, which is maybe the most brutal part of the movie. And otherwise, fairly, I mean, for the time, obviously, really, really graphic, but, like, by modern, standards, nothing too crazy, except for maybe that one. And I remember just watching it going, what the fuck is happening? And just being, like, mesmerized and terrified and scarred for life in a good way. So that was my first one, but I think probably it would be a toss-up again between Dawn and Day, and I might have to give it to Day for a lot of the same reasons that I just feel like, yeah, Dawn is just such a fun, silly bounce around, but it also is, a procedure in a way. It's like, this is what would happen and this is how you would handle it, right? Whereas Day of the Dead, there's just the performances, the tension, and I think it has better characters too, even though I really love everyone in Dawn of the Dead. And interestingly enough, you said your, like, third cousin or something was a zombie in Night of the Living Dead. That's, like, a really common Western Pennsylvania thing. Like, people know people who are in these movies, right?
Yeah.
My wife's whole family's from Monroeville. I used to live in Monroeville. I spent a lot of time at the Monroeville Mall. I've been to the old, I don't know if it's still there. There was a little zombie museum in one of the stores in the Monroeville Mall. And then, of course, Evans City is right up the road from where I live as well. But here's a really cool story. And this bleeds right into it. My wife works at a hospital, used to work at a hospital in Monroeville. And she's talking to one of her coworkers who I think he's a nurse. And they just get to chatting while they're, like, waiting for something to get done. And it comes up that he was in Dawn of the Dead. And my wife is like, are you serious? My husband's a huge fan. Loves the movie. And she was like, who did you play? He was like, oh, I was the pie face zombie. And she's like, no fucking way. He's like, yeah, I'll bring you in a glossy. So the next day he brings me in, and people at home can't see this, but I'm gonna post this. I've posted it before. He brings this in. It's a screenshot of this guy. His name's John, and he even autographed it. Brian, there are dead among us. Thanks for being a fan. The quote pie face zombie John, and like signed it for me. And You would have thought like she brought Tom Savini to my house. I was so fucking excited because it's like such a small thing. It's such an obscure role, but anybody who loves that movie, you say pie, you know exactly what you're talking about, right? It's one of two guys, right? I was just so, it just was the coolest, most obscure, like perfectly obscure person to run into from that movie. So
that's so awesome.
Huge fan of that one. But yeah, you can't go anywhere in Western Pennsylvania without someone knowing somebody who was involved with some of the, one of those flicks. Even Day of the Dead was shot in most of it was shot in a mine shaft or something out in Koppel or something like that.
Was it Koppel or was it like
Wampum? Koppel or
yeah,
Wampum?
it was the Wampum because I've actually been in those mines.
Yeah,
and these names are so good.
My friend had like a small car collection.
Yeah,
but he had a Miata and he stored it in the Wampum mines.
Oh yeah, because there's that racetrack out that way too, right? Oh, that makes sense. Yeah, Wampum, not Koppel. You're 100% right. I've never been there, but I've always wanted to.
It's super interesting though because you can walk around, you can kind of see things, but like right now it's like it's all full of cars and trailers and boats.
Yeah, it's mostly storage now. I've read that it's like storage now because wasn't it built for something in like some sort of government project like in the 50s or something?
Possibly, yeah. Because I mean it was just a salt mine, and then I think the government took it over for projects. But now it's like it's weird because the walls are all painted over, so it's salt mine walls, but with like gray primer.
Oh, beautiful. I'm sure it really adds a lot of charm to the place.
Have either of you guys been to any of the Living Dead weekend at either Monroeville or Evans City?
I actually haven't.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
I usually go to the Evans City one. I haven't been to the one in Monroeville.
Yeah, I haven't been to the one in Monroeville, but they always do stuff when they do like the Steel City Con and everything in Monroeville. But yeah, my wife and I obviously not last year, so it would have been 2019. We went and saw a screening of Night of the Living Dead at the Strand Theater in downtown Zillionople, which is right up the road, and Russ Striner, who played Johnny. You know, the brother at the beginning that does they're coming to get you.
Yeah.
And he was also like part of the production team. He was like a close, I think, like business associate of George Romero for a lot of years. He came and spoke about the movie, or I think it was before or after the movie. I don't know. I was very stoned. I remember at one point, actually, my wife and I are sitting there, and they said something about Chili Billy Cardille, who's in Night of the Living Dead, who's a very famous horror host for many years. Hosted like the local version of Chiller Theater in the Pittsburgh market, and somebody said something about his name. I'm a big fan of horror hosts and something. He mentioned his name, and I did like a woo, and I was the only person in the crowd that did it, and everyone just looked at me, and I was way too stoned for everyone looking at me. But it was super fun, to see it in that like small little one screen theater there. So
I'm not gonna lie, I love going to the one in Evans City for the dog Halloween costume contest. That's Bruce and I were Bonnie and Clyde 2 years ago.
That is the most authentic Romero Western PA horror experience you can get. Dog costume contest.
Dog costumes.
I love it.
Oh man.
Well, you can't be a yinzer, you can't be a Western Pennsylvania resident without loving George Romero. So, interestingly enough, a little bit on. So he was born in the Bronx, but came to Pittsburgh as a Carnegie Mellon student. Went to CMU, and then I just learned this, kind of poking around online. One of his first gigs after he graduated from CMU was he did a segment for Mr. Rogers' Neighborhood. And it was a segment where Mr. Rogers is going to get his tonsils out, if you remember that one. So that I now I want to rewatch that and see like if I can draw any parallels between like the Dead series or anything like that, and see if there was any lines that were stolen from that or something. But so. A little bit into the flick. So like I said, this was, I did not know what to expect going into this one. I had heard of it, but I think really only heard of it in like 2019 where it kind of resurfaced, right? Because it was originally shot in 1973. And I learned as we were kind of jumping into this that it was commissioned by the Lutheran Service Society of Western Pennsylvania as like a PSA/educational film of sorts that was meant to bring about awareness of issues of elder abuse and ageism, which incredibly straightforward when you watch the movie, but going in completely blind, I was very surprised to have this like pre-credit sequence with who we quickly learned is the star and really only ongoing character of the film, that he's the one talking at the beginning. He's talking about like, imagine what it would be like to be put in this situation and stuff. And I was like, what the hell am I getting myself into? Were you guys surprised by that? Did you know what it was going in?
I did not at all.
Yeah.
I just started watching, and I think at first I was a little overwhelmed by it.
I think that's kind of like what they were going for. They were just trying to disorient you, right?
I think, I definitely feel like they wanted you to feel what it could be like being someone at that age. And I felt like they did an amazing job at it.
Yeah. I had no idea either. And just, you're talking about this preamble, and I kind of read a little bit more that they had to put the preamble, and then there's another kind of post roll after that with the actor Lincoln Maazel, just to kind of set it up. But even with the setup, I'm like, is this some kind of bizarre like Twilight Zone episode?
It feels very Twilight Zone. You're definitely right, because it's very surrealist. It's very disorienting. Obviously, the whole thing is like very low budget. It was the first, I think, and only like feature that he was actually hired for. Shot it quick and dirty in 3 days between the release of Season of the Witch, if you've ever seen, which is a pretty cool one. I only watched like maybe last year for the first time, and The Crazies. So it was in 1973, like right before The Crazies came out, like quick and dirty. They shot it at Westview Park in Westview, which is it actually closed only a few years after this. It was a small, kind of amusement park in the suburbs of Pittsburgh. And and then it was considered lost until about 2017, where they found it and then worked with this company in New York to do like a full 4K release. I know they originally viewed it, and this is when I originally heard about it, was they did a big premiere of it in Pittsburgh at, I think, a museum, and I don't remember exactly which one, but I think it was a museum in Pittsburgh in October of 2019, and I wanted to go and couldn't make it work, and then didn't hear anything else about it. Right until they started promoting it as a Shudder exclusive. So, very disorienting, frankly, very effective, I think, in a lot of ways. But a couple of things about the cast. Steve, like you said, Lincoln, is it Maazel? Is that how you say his name?
Lincoln Maazel. Yeah.
He's really the only character. I don't think his character has a name. Did he have a name? Did I miss that?
No.
I don't remember hearing a name. That
cat was born in 1903. And he just passed away in 2009. He was 106.
That's wild.
That's a run.
At the beginning of the film, he tells us that he's 71 years old. Like, I know. As himself, he says, I'm 71 years old. And then I also saw that, he lived to 103. So that's a 30 more years of...
Yeah.
That was kind of like the very first thing that hit me at the beginning, because as I'm like watching it, I'm like, wait, what? And I start looking it up, and the very first thing you see is it was kind of like this educational film. And I thought to myself, how much longer did this guy live after? Like, it begs the internal question of like, how much longer till this guy may or may not have suffered the same fate that he was like portraying in the movie, not to be too depressing about it, but that's exactly what my brain went to. And then I looked up and was like, no, dude had a whole life ahead of him after that, like pretty much. So it was pretty wild. But the only other thing that I saw that he was in Martin in 1977, which I don't think I've seen the whole way through, to be honest with you. It's another Romero film that is just kind of snuck under the radar for me. But I do remember it's about a kid who thinks he's a vampire. Is that accurate? Which led me to believe, immediately took me to, is this like the prequel to Vampire's Kiss? I understand that Nicolas Cage is not in it, but I was like, wait, that sounds remarkably like the plot for Vampire's Kiss. Otherwise I think he was kind of a stage actor, right?
Yeah. everything I read, it seemed to be he was a stage actor. And you kind of get that from his performance. He's very, big and open and projecty and
100%. Yeah, he's very much even his mannerisms, the kind of level of drama he's inserting into, his kind of deterioration as a human is it seems like a stage performance, right? But in a great way. I think in an effective way.
Yeah, I have to jump in just because I feel like, Meg's going to bring the emotional aspect to this because I love bringing the pain to this podcast.
How would you like to suck our life force out today,
How would I
Meg?
like to cry tonight on on the floor, on the couch? No, but I think what they did an amazing job at was, I feel like when you watch it, you have either heard of stories or you've experienced stories with your own family of these type of things happening. And then at the, so much loneliness. I can't help but be that crushed me, where I'm like, man, I understand that feeling. And I can only imagine when you're in this very confused state and people could be taking advantage of you and everything is working against you because ultimately no one really cares. And you kind of become this burden of sorts, and it's almost this biggest fear. And I think what I really took out of this is what I love about certain horror movies is when they bring real life and you're like, holy shit, this is the scariest thing I've ever experienced.
Oh yeah, it reminded me, it had shades of, and now the name is going to escape me, but what is the British film from the 70s about a nuclear holocaust? Oh man, it's one word. It's a one word, and people who are listening are screaming it right now. But I'll look it up. But it's very much kind of shades of that because it's just painfully realistic. Although the movie itself is, I would say, kind of surreal. Everything coming down to, obviously this is not how people act. It's kind of this society that works within an amusement park, but it is just the real emotion that is being poured out from this super darkly surreal scene. I mean, even down to stuff that was almost borderline comical. Like the restaurant scene, where the waiter's taking the order with a giant oversized pencil and the menu is enormous and all this weird, it's very surreal. It's very meant to be but it's all played to be disorienting. Right. Yeah. Brutal.
Yeah. And just one of the notes. So, I mean, just the basic setup of the film is that, this older man finds himself in an amusement park and then just different parts of the amusement park just play out. It's all a mirror of what regular real life is.
Right.
Yeah. Within the amusement park. But the one thing that stood out to me about that was almost every shot you see people moving in it, whether he's moving or not. And it's the constant movement and turmoil that's really disorienting and really, how people can just get swept up in the rest of the world because people are going about their day no matter what.
Yeah the metaphors, I would say, are not terrifically dissimilar to last week's movie with The Strange Thing About the Johnsons. The metaphors are very on the nose, but it makes sense considering the purpose of the movie, which it was as, this kind of educational PSA type of thing. When he's pickpocketed, he immediately learns that he was pickpocketed, not 20 minutes later when he goes to get his tickets out or whatever. But yeah, I guess we should probably, we jumped right into it, which I think is great, but we should probably talk about the premise of the movie, which is really, really straightforward. The story begins with a young Colonel Harlan Sanders. And no, I'm just kidding. But he does he not remind you of Colonel Sanders? I couldn't stop looking at his suit. No, it starts out with this older gentleman, and he's in this, I hesitate to say purgatory, but it is very much this dream state kind of thing where his consciousness is looking at his future self, sitting there dejected, beat up, physically beat up, crying, distraught, and he's like, what's going on out there? And he's like, there's nothing out there, don't go out there, kind of thing. And then, of course, he's like happy-go-lucky at this point, and he walks out the door, and he's like, "I think I'll figure it out, Kai," and walks out. And the most crushing part of this whole movie for me is the slow. It's not that slow; it progresses pretty quickly, but the gradual, I guess, transformation of him as an independent, optimistic, kind of happy-go-lucky older gentleman who's confident, to this just miserable, defeated person in the matter of because the whole runtime is only about an hour, right? So it's the socioeconomic element in particular was really, really depressing to me, because it just mirrors so many things we're seeing. I mean, none of this has changed, right? This is 1973, and none of this has changed,
right?
So that was the most. And I'm sorry, we're getting real depressing. There were also some great Yinzer accents.
Yeah, there were.
I'm sorry. I'm literally like, okay, I'm going to go lay in traffic. Let's talk about Yinzer accents. It was my favorite one, the cop in the bumper car scene. Do you guys remember him?
Yeah.
Oh my God, yeah.
He's like, "No, I'm going to tell yins. I'm not going to tell yins again." All right? He's like, "Listen, now I'm not going to tell yins again."
We all know this guy.
He honestly, and the thing is, like, he had like a mustache, and so he looked a bit like he looked a bit like the character Pittsburgh Dad.
That's what I was just about to say. He was all of our dads. Yeah, he was a stereotypical Pittsburgh dad, definitely.
Yeah, that one stuck out hard because it's just like,
man.
Oh.
Yeah, it hit hard. I can't help but remember in high school, I performed in an ill-advised version of the Music Man, and I played a cop, and everyone's up there doing their lines, and I only had a couple lines, and everyone's like speaking in this very non-regional diction, and then I jump into the scene. I'm like, "Hey, what are you doing over here?" Like,
oh my God.
My parents love to like pull that out and show people, because it's just, I don't know, I just went super Yinzer with it.
Man, if that exists, we all need to see this. We will do an episode on this.
It paid off so hard.
The Yinzer Music Man.
Just like the optimism getting crushed is just brutal. So another kind of quick fact. So I thought the cinematography, the sound design, again, everything is designed to kind of lend this disorienting quality, or this like hopelessly disoriented quality. Even at one point, and this might be my favorite scene, or the most effective scene, was when the young couple go in to see the fortune teller. And they see their future of like him, the man in the relationship. It's a man and woman, we're apparently a couple, and they look into the future, and they've got married, whatever. They're elderly, and the man is like dying, and the woman can't get help because they don't have any money. And then all of a sudden a marching band comes through. It's one of those things where, like, if you would have added different music or cinematography, it almost could have been played as like a Monty Python sketch or something like that. It was so absurdist, but like, just the performances, especially for most of the people that the performers were volunteers, from what I understand, right?
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was mostly volunteers. And then, like, also to just go along with how kind of ridiculous that scene is, the older version of the woman is calling a doctor to try and get them to come visit the older version of the husband, and the doctor on the other end of the phone is like constantly inundated with people, and he's wearing this flashy jacket. He's playing this obvious doctor that is just doing things for money and doesn't actually care about his patients. But it's all just chaotic and hectic and just nightmarish.
It's very stress inducing. I thought this was interesting too, as we're talking about the cinematography. The cinematographer was actually Bill Hinsman, who was the first zombie in Night of the Living Dead, the one that kills Johnny and chases Barbara. He later directed a couple of Yinzer horror classics, Majorettes and Flesh Eater, which are two absolute just legendary yinzer horror films. I mean, talk about some sweet yinzer accents in there, but yeah, it was. Another thing about that scene that kind of strangely lightened the mood for me a little bit, but it ultimately accelerated the decline of the main character, because this is when he got like physically injured, or one of the reasons when he got physically injured is that after they kind of wake up from the trance they were in with the, whatever it was, the fortune teller, I guess, the husband or the male in the relationship runs out and just Eric Andre's the bench. Like literally just dives through it, smashing it. And I'm like, wait, wouldn't you come out of that feeling at the very least sympathetic for older people? Or he was just instead incensed with this insane rage and just throws himself through the bench like intro to the Eric Andre show.
Yeah.
But I think what was cool about that is like almost you get exposed to this like level of like ego there is when we're younger, and like they totally finish it off. And I like made sure to like bookmark this quote. It's like, consider taking some positive action while you're young enough to be a positive influence, and I'll see you in the parks tonight. So it's just like almost like this level of like, that makes sense that his response would just be like angry and just like reactive, because you're like, this isn't going to happen to me. This is, or you're going to deny it.
Yeah.
Until it's inevitable.
It can never happen to me. I would never put myself in that position. I'm too this, I'm too that. I would never allow that to happen. Yeah. You're 100%. You're 100% right.
Yeah. It's like a real meta part of it, because we're told at the beginning, in the preamble, this is going to happen to us. We are going to get old.
Right.
And then we're shown, hey, somebody is also being told they're going to get old, and then they freak out. And he comes out and runs through the bench, and then mollywops the old guy, and it just...
and then after that, the scariest thing a elderly person in 1973 can possibly imagine, bikers.
Biker gang.
Yeah. And bikers come out, and interesting about, we talked about how everyone always knows somebody who's in one of these George Romero movies. Coincidentally, all of those bikers are my dad.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, it's kind of an interesting little personal thing there. But so then they pickpocket him. They just beat the shit out of him again. It's just it's brutal. And then maybe the most heart-wrenching scene near the end. Well, actually, before that, one thing I thought was kind of interesting, because this was, like we said, commissioned by an organization that at least has some sort of religious ties, right? It's some sort of like Lutheran charity organization. I thought it was pretty ballsy to insert the church doesn't care either scene. Although it was very, you could tell it was very, very subdued. I mean, it was just like he walked up and there was like a sign that said like no church for you, and then he fucked off. But like I thought that was kind of ballsy. I wish they would have went deeper.
Yeah. I honestly feel like that could have been one of those things that like triggered them immediately, because I think that's a good point to make, that like they turned their back. And I think we see that all the time in different scenarios, if we want to really go down that rabbit hole of like these organizations that want to help people and they say they're helping people, but what are they doing at the heart of it? They're doing the bare minimum. And I'm not to discount every single one. I'm not trying to do that. But we see that happening all the time.
Yeah. It was, or saying like, hey, it was just because they really laid into the hospital, right? Because when he was in the doctor's office and everyone's just hustling him along, not really giving him any type of real care, just basically going through the motions so they could bill him, right? That was the whole idea. And they really laid it on thick with the medical kind of community, but they didn't really lay into the church, I feel like, as hard as they could have. And I think you're right, it might have had something to do with the fact that a Christian organization funded the film. I don't know. I don't want to speak for them, but I wonder if that had something to do with them kind of shelving it, because from what I could read, they thought it was a little edgy for what they wanted to get done, I guess, or something like that.
That's
very vague. What I read was very vague, though. Did anybody else hear anything different?
No, everything seemed pretty vague, but also, you can only make assumptions, I think.
But I think if you consider like what a group like that would want out of an educational film, they don't want this overly loud, overly tense, film that's like, it's kind of it's experimental for sure, even though it's like very easy for people to, at least of our age, you know, of the experimental films that we've experienced.
Right.
You know, maybe back in the 70s they don't want that kind of nonsense. And then like also you just have visions of death showing up, and you know, as we've mentioned, the church being a little bit lambasted in that, although they were Catholic priests. So
that's true. They were like, don't worry, it's 1973, we're still allowed to make fun of Catholics. But you know what? One thing that I couldn't help but notice. Well, I guess one thing I would say before that is, you're probably 100% right. They saw it and were like, this was a little bit much for what we were anticipating. But when you get I understand George Romero wasn't George Romero by that point, right? This was only 5 years out after Night of the Living Dead, but Night of the Living Dead was already, you know, a well-known, obviously, film. Certainly in the region, it would have been extremely well-known. But, you know, when you, now looking back on it, if a movie is able to accomplish what it set out to do 50 years ago, like, it's a pretty fucking good film, right?
Yeah.
Like, which I feel like it 100% did. And that thing it set out to do was not necessarily entertain the hell out of you, although I didn't lose interest in it, but it absolutely made me reconsider, you know, am I, you know, as sympathetic as I should be, you know what I mean, or am I doing as much as I can when I'm young to help people who are in that situation and that sort of thing. And it like, if that's the driving force behind the making the film, like, goddamn, it did a pretty good job.
Yeah,
it was effective. I just think it's probably too weird for a church program to put out, you know,
especially in 1973. 100%. Like, Kirk Cameron didn't even exist then.
Right.
Also, one last thing: if a doctor puts a stethoscope on your forehead, that's a dead giveaway. That man's not a doctor. That's all I'm saying. I've fallen for that a couple times. And,
I don't know if you guys, I want to add one more thing too, that I don't know if you guys felt this way. I almost for 2 seconds felt this redeeming hope when the main character like met that little girl at the end, was like reading to her.
Oh my God. I was just about to say, it was brutal.
And I felt like it was almost like, okay, well, yeah, I know, like, the youth is the future of sorts, and they can actually, you know, connect with older people in a different way because they get to give this like caretaker thing and make them feel like they have a purpose. And then all of a sudden I was ripped away, and you're like, oh my God, that's heartbreaking.
Yeah, that was maybe the most, that scene, and that was when he really, like, the theater actor kind of mentality of the performance, like, really paid off, which was his, like, the crying scene. There's nothing that's gonna kill me quicker than, like, an old person weeping. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
Like, that's rough. And he oh man, it was so convincing. It was so, it just, boy, ripped your heart out, and just made you go to bed real sad. So we're off to a killer start.
I'm very happy that I ate an edible before that, because I was like, okay, I can just like calm down and go to bed. It's like,
right after
right
that,
to bed.
Yeah. Kids. That's how I was like, all right, I'm going to get stoned and watch NES DuckTales speed running right after this. It's the only thing that's going to get my mind off of this. But any final thoughts on or on the amusement park before we wrap up this here minisode?
Well, it's good. It's good to know that Picnic Chicken has not changed from the 70s too much.
God, I love Picnic Chicken. Jesus Christ. Picnic Chicken is second only to gas station chicken in my mind.
Pretty much.
They're both so good.
That was the one thing that kind of just pulled me out, is there's that one solitary shot of the sad half-eaten drum sitting on the stones.
I know.
Like, right
you
after
almost
all
wanted
that.
to reach out and take it.
No.
I kind of wanted it. I was like, can I have that?
Like, it reminded me, it did the same thing to me. It kind of took me out of it a little bit, because it was almost like, there's another scene that I can't think of that's kind of like this, but it was almost a milk was a bad choice scene. You know what I mean? Like, oh, why am I eating this chicken? I'm so emotional. But yeah, it was simultaneously the most depressing and goofy scene, I think, of the film. But Cool. Any final thoughts on the amusement park? What did you think overall? Happy we watched it? Sad you watched it? Would you ever watch it again?
I definitely would watch it again. I would have other people watch it, but I feel like it would more so be in my typical like projector, like, hey, yeah, no, take care of yourself now. Live while you're young.
Meg is the only one who would watch it again because she would use it to make other people feel bad, because that's really what her goal is in life.
Meg is weaponizing film, and I don't know how I feel about it.
She 100% is. She uses film as a way to manipulate and hurt people.
I feel seen, guys. I feel seen.
I know that your plan is unraveling right before your very eyes. Yeah, awesome. So super fun. Go check it out if you haven't already on Shudder. I don't know if it's available anywhere else. I think it's a Shudder exclusive still, right? So go check that out. Definitely worth a watch. It ain't gonna make you feel good, but it's a pretty fun watch. And anything that's in the filmography of the great George A. Romero is worth a watch in my book. So. Real quick, we should probably mention as well, we wrapped up our poll, right?
Mm-hmm.
For episode, our main episode number 2. Do we want to talk about that, or we want to wait till the next minisode?
We can tell them what won, but I think we'll probably hold off what our film choices are going to be for the third minisode.
Yes, agreed. Yeah, so
Drum roll.
we put out a poll on Instagram and on Twitter, and Meg was kind enough to explain to me the correct way to do a poll moving forward, because just as I do not know how to use a microphone, and Steve had to explain to me how to hook up my mic appropriately before this episode, Meg had to explain to me how to use Instagram.
I'm here for you, Dad.
Yeah, I appreciate it. You guys are just constantly, I just call you guys for tech support because I'm a fucking 1,000 years old. But anyway, so we put out 3 different options. They were, future famous directors, religious horror, and found footage. And it was extremely close. Not the first one, Steve. Your option received almost 0 votes. No, it was a great one. I think it just needed too much explanation, and the other 2 were like, oh yeah, I know what that is, right?
Right.
Yeah.
But I think we throw that one back in the hopper because I would love to do that one someday. But it came down to religious horror and found footage were like neck and neck, and I believe by a scant 2 votes, religious horror pulled out the win, which I'm pretty psyched about, because some of my favorite movies would fall in that subgenre. Steve and I have already argued and decided that neither of us are allowed to do Prince of Darkness, even though it has some religious overtones. We are going to eventually let that bloodbath happen another time.
Just not yet, because somebody did pitch the idea of doing our favorite John Carpenter film. So when that one makes it into the poll, I'm sure it will win, and then we can fight who gets to do Prince of Darkness.
Yeah, so that's the thing. I know this is your master plan, because my favorite Carpenter movie is definitely not Prince of Darkness, but it is one of my favorite movies of all time. I'm just a huge fucking Carpenter fan. So you're ultimately going to get to do this movie, and I know you Machiavellian bastard, you're gonna take it from me. But yeah, so that's our theme for our next main episode, which will come out that first Monday in July, right? Which is July the 5th, right? So that's when that one come out. So, but we'll have another minisode in between then and now, or then now and then. Then and now, or this time and that time. But so we'll see you again before that for another mini-sode. And check us out over on Instagram at Halloween is Forever. Twitter, we are at Hallow Forever. Facebook page is Halloween is Forever. And if you want to just drop us one of them old-fashioned emails, it's halloweenisforeverpod@gmail.com. Right on? Anything else?
Party.
That's it.
All right, thanks everyone for joining us for this Halloween is Forever minisode, and we'll catch you next time. Bye.
Me.
Bye.